is Leon Cato. I'm a documentary photographer and visual artist. I've been doing this about 10 to 15 years, documenting people's lives and struggles. I'm here to tell you my story as a creative in New York during the pandemic.
Queens in New York is the worst infected district in what is now the world's worst infected city, and the doctors and nurses don't know what's hit them.
How is it?
Hell. Biblical. I kid you not. People come in, they get intubated, they die, the cycle repeats.
Are you overwhelmed?
Yeah, the system's overwhelmed, all over the place.
When we were first in lockdown, we knew that we'd have to get out the house to kind of have some type of sanity. So my wife and I would walk for 3 miles every morning around the neighborhood. So we knew this area pretty well during that time because we had to get out the house for at least once a day. So we do like a 3-mile walk down all this area, Elmhurst area, down Queens Boulevard. And there was nobody out here. It was like so completely dead. They're doing testing in multiple sites. So you have lines running from the right side of your house and then lines running from the left side of your house. You go on the corner, there's another clinic with more lines running. And people are out there for the whole day. You go out there at like 12 noon, you come back, the same person's in that line 2 hours later to get their COVID test. So on the 15th of March, we already started having lockdowns. That previous week, the city was already closing restaurants and those type of venues. We knew we were on the verge of the schools being announced to be closed, and we knew that was going to be a big deal. But I had a shoot scheduled that day uptown in Harlem, so I kind of took the chance to get this last shoot out of the way before everything got locked down. This is before mass. This is just kind of like winging it. And as I left the house to get to the station, on my way, I thought I need to start capturing some pictures of what I'm experiencing because this is probably going to be kind of a big deal. So coming down this street here is when I took my camera out and I got ready to start taking some shots. I took some shots down this street and then going into the subway, capturing what was actually going on during that time. We first started seeing lines around the block, starting at the City MD on the corner. It's the walk-in center. Down at the end of that block there. People lining up for hours at a time, waiting to get their COVID test, 6 feet apart, maintaining social distance, but patiently waiting outside so they can get their COVID test. So this is a major travel hub, major transit hub in New York City. 5 train station lines come through here. This also is where you would get the bus to go to the airport. We're close to the Long Island Railroad, so this is a major travel hub of New York City, which I believe contributed greatly to the amount of cases in the area, because people were traveling in from the airports and coming through here to get where they had to get to, which eventually this neighborhood became the epicenter of the epicenter. So with the cases in this neighborhood were really, really, really high, and we were in a crisis situation. And my theory is that a lot of that has to do with the fact that this is a big transit area, as you can see, for New York City in general, coming from the airports, and then definitely for the borough of Queens. So I came down those steps over there. Again, I got my camera out because I realized this is happening. And I started grabbing shots of this area because this is a massive thoroughfare. And again, there was nobody here. There was literally, the vendors, you see a lot of vendors around. There was nobody here. It wasn't safe for anybody to be out. And there was a homeless person and a person speaking about the Bible. That's all we had. He was preaching right there at the bottom of the steps. I caught a shot from that angle there. A couple of police officers or something around, but this was in the middle of the day, and usually it's a lot more people than this, packing through this whole area. I was obviously worried about my safety. I was conscious to stay far from people, but I have my camera, I have my my lens hood on, and I'm kind of just capturing shots, capturing the moment, the history as it was happening. As we're compelled to do as creatives, this is what we do. We capture things. Sometimes put ourselves in a slight bit of harm or difficulty, but the moment was too big to miss. Creativity to me is therapeutic. It's more than just something that I engage in. It's who I am. I can't imagine not creating, taking pictures, making art. It's just become part of who I am. It's my second nature. So of course, during a time like the pandemic, this gives you more time to really dig deep into what gives you therapy, what helps you get through things. This has gotten me through the pandemic. It's getting me through the pandemic. It's getting me through change, getting me through struggle. It helps manage fear as well, because we don't know what's happening, what's going to happen next. But I know that I find solace in my ability to create things. And it's very important to document what's going on. I find it, especially the hidden stories, you don't get all the time. People know what's going on. That's my job, that's our responsibility to represent people to the masses. I take it very seriously.
New York is special, it's unique. But we got a lot of stuff going on here crazy.
So obviously, like having enough time to kind of figure out that I'm capturing this, you kind of get into a bit of a zone, and you start looking for angles and start thinking about what story you want to tell. So you kind of move past the initial, oh my God, this is crazy, and then you're like trying to capture anything to kind of more thinking through what you're actually doing. So when I came here, this is usually an area that's like bustling with people, nuts. As you can see, it's quite wide. I realized that fortunately, I had my 17mm, my wide angle lens on my camera ready, so I was able to kind of kick back in the corner and get as wide a shot as possible to kind of really drive home how big a space it is, how it allows for a lot of people, and how few people were actually here. It kind of gives an idea of what the city was already starting to lack. It was its people.
Normally, it's the price, but I can do 20.
Coronavirus, we are stronger than you. We are New York City. We defeated everything. We made everything fair and equal for everybody. New York is number one.
The pandemic has affected like all parts of life in New York. If you notice, there's no street performers or less street performers here in Times Square. There's a lot of people who make their money from tourism that's not as direct as, say, the hotels and the airlines or whatever. It's the people in New York. The entire economic ecosystem relies on the city buzzing. So when tourists aren't coming, it's not just affecting certain big industries. It's affecting a lot of people who get money in Times Square. A lot of the street performers, a lot of the people who do music, have games for kids, things like that in this area, and now have nowhere to be because number one, the government doesn't want them to be here. It's not safe. Number two, there's no tourists. So it really gives you a real life example of how the entire ecosystem is affected from top all the way to the bottom through the pandemic, and how the people the lowest are the hardest hit.